the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody, I'm Carlo Garganese and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast special preview of Euro 2024. How excited are you for seeing Italy again in a major tournament?
Well, I'm very excited that Italy have qualified to a major tournament. I mean, it's not exactly been, we've not been spoiled with that, have we, recently, even though Italy did win the Euros and are reigning champions. But it's these summer tournaments are really, very exciting, generally, whether it's a World Cup or the Euros. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited to see it. And I also want to see, because as I've said before, this tournament for me is more prep for the World Cup. For me, Italy have to be ready in 2 years' time for the World Cup. And for me, this is just a dress rehearsal and building a stepping stone, a building block towards that tournament. So I'm kind of excited to see what Spalletti's doing, because we're going to get into it, but he can't play his usual formation. He's had to adapt to that. And I'm kind of excited to see what he does and how the team react to that.
And Adrian, we were there together at Wembley at Euro 2020, some really special memories there. Now you live in Italy, in Milan. What is the mood in Italy now ahead of the Euros? Is there excitement? Is there hope and expectation that we can do something magical again?
We know how the Italians are, and it's very rarely that we see optimism. I think coming into this tournament, look, there's excitement that we're back in a tournament. I think Nima said it well. At the end of the day, since Euro 2016, to have only been in one international tournament in all that time is ridiculous. One tournament in 8 years. I often think about children growing up. A lot of my childhood memories are built on Italy in World Cups, Italy in European Championships, and obviously every 2 years, grateful to have had that. And for the generation of kids coming through that haven't really even experienced that, it's just so important to see Italy, irrespective of the quality or if we're comparing to teams of old. It's so important for the sport and for its growth and progression that we're back at this stage of the tournament. So from that regard, a lot of excitement. There are a lot of kids out in the streets in Italy shirts. I was out early this morning. There is the feeling that an international tournament is coming, and obviously to be back a part of that, very, very exciting indeed. And I'm with Nima on the fact that for us, I think the focus is 26. It has to be getting back to the World Cup. It has to be for Spalletti to, also for himself, to learn at this stage, international tournaments, what is required, what it takes to mix and match it with the very best. And obviously there are some very strong European nations at the moment. And I'm looking forward to the test. We know we're not going in as favourites. Many won't be tipping that we'll defend the crown, but it is a great opportunity in the group of death to really learn. And look, we know Italy in tournaments, anything is possible. So we're not ruling anything out. But I think over here, just the fact to see Italy back in a tournament is what most people are looking forward to.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's the same for all Italians around the world. I'm of Italian heritage, as you are, Adrian. We were born, I was born in England, you were born in Australia. And it's something that for all Italians, the international tournaments, even if you're not a massive football fans, it brings you together. It makes you feel Italian again. And like you said, it makes you feel like a kid. I mean, not just the kids, but the adults as well. It feels like Christmas, doesn't it? When a tournament comes along, you get excitement and you really look forward to it. And, you can probably see the cards behind me. I've just turned 40 a few days ago, but it makes me feel like a kid, when the international tournament starts. So,
I have family from Australia who like the sport, but obviously it's very difficult to follow the sport from Australia. I grew up watching football at 4 a.m. It's very difficult to be a passionate fan. We've got other sports as well. They live for these moments. My extended family, even those that don't follow the sport as much as me, supporting Italy from abroad, it's the tournaments where you come together and you create those memories. And Spalletti spoke about that, which I loved, on their trip to the US, where he spoke about in the friendlies that, yes, they may be two friendlies for us, but we're bringing ourselves to our American Italian fans. And I think that is a little underrated. There are Italians all over the world, not just in Europe. And it's truly special for this team to be back here for all of those fans. And yeah, we need to get back to the top. There is a long road ahead, but for the fans, it means so much. So from that regard, I feel like a kid as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. Well, let's see if we can get back to the top. I mean, let's go straight in there with the big question, and then we will break it down afterwards into more details. Adrian, let's start with you again. How far do you see Italy going at Euro 2024? Can we win it?
Look, we always can win everything. Look back since the 2006 World Cup. Obviously, it hasn't been a great period for the national team, but there have been tournaments where once we're through, once you get through the group stage, anything is then possible. And this is the thing with Italy. Again, they've spoken about it in recent days. I think it was Roberto Baggio the last couple of days spoke about the meaning of playing for this shirt and what it does to players. And yes, we can win. Are we going to win on paper? No, we're not. We're nowhere near the strongest squad on paper. Yes, we have some issues. We have some key absentees, but this team are always capable. Luciano Spalletti is coming off success at club level. There are positives to look at. But look, I think first and foremost, it's going to be about focusing on those 3 group stage fixtures. I think match day 1 against Albania, a result, obviously a must. The 3 points, a must. We know we can still qualify as a 3rd place finisher. We're not trying to be negative, but obviously coming up against Spain, coming up against Croatia, we need to be realistic. But we have matched these 2 teams in the past. We are capable, and I think if this team are to get through the group stage, obviously it's very hard to look ahead to how the draw can play out because there's so many different permutations. But there is a team there, like we saw in 2020 in the European Championships, where there is a core of this squad where it could blossom into something special. There are some players coming through which are young, which are hungry, which are eager. I'm looking at those positives as opposed to the fact of, we're missing players, we're not at our best, everything is a bit new. Can we win? It will be tough. But if we can get through this group stage, I think anything is possible.
Anything is possible, Nima?
Well, exactly to build on what Adrian said, I think, Italy, we've seen it with these big countries, the Germanys, the Italys, even when they don't perhaps have the best, preparations going into a tournament, even if they're on paper, they don't have the best players or the best players in form and so on. They once you get to the tournament, the routine kind of sets in, and we've seen it in the past. I mean, I've watched a couple of Germany teams in my lifetime reach finals where they had no business being in finals, but they did reach them. And we've seen Italy win tournaments when nobody believed in them either. So everything is possible, but Italy are far from favourites by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I would say, we'll break this down after, but I would be happy with a quarterfinal appearance, and then anything from there would be a bonus for me, and that's my aim, quarterfinal. And we'll go I'll go into my reasons after as we break down the squad and the strengths and the weaknesses as to why I think that. So let's look at the squad first, then, guys. It should be flashing up on the screen now. The preliminary squad that was announced. It was originally a 30-man preliminary squad, which then had to be cut down to 26 players. Those that are watching this, that 26-man squad may have been announced by the time that you watch or listen to this. But obviously, since that initial 30-man squad was announced, we have had a couple of big injuries to Francesco Acerbi, to Giorgio Scalvini. And that probably brings me on to, well, we'll come to the injuries in a little bit first, but the biggest controversy when that initial 30-man squad was announced was the snub of the exclusion of Manuel Locatelli. That was the big controversy, and it was a really a big shock. Nobody was really expecting it. Now, personally, I can't really understand this decision. Having watched all of Juventus's games, yes, Locatelli has had a terrible 2024. I think that he has been mismanaged, hasn't been coached well by Max Allegri. I think since he's joined from Sassuolo, he hasn't progressed at all. I think he's stagnated at best and maybe regressed from the player that we saw at Euro 2020, who was one of the best midfielders in the tournament, really, certainly in the first half of that tournament. That's true. But still, even with taking that into account, when I look at the players who were named in the preliminary squad ahead of him, and not all of these will be in the final squad. I'm looking at the likes of Ricci, Fodoruncio. Fagioli is a bit of a punt, really, having not barely played at all for 7 months, or not played at all for 7 months until the last 2 games of the season. So for me, he still surely had to have gone to the Euros. What do you think, Nima? Let's come to you first. Surely Locatelli should have gone to the Euros.
I'm of that opinion. Yes, I was very surprised to see him omitted from the squad. But I mean, when you saw what Spalletti said, he says scelta tecnica, and when he says that, well, at the same time, I also trust his ability to read and understand the makeup of a squad and the tactical aspects of this, of what he's looking for from his midfield. So I'm going to punt it and basically say, I think Spalletti has deserved us to trust his judgment. But I do think it's very strange, because on the face of it, you can't tell me that Locatelli doesn't make an Italy 26-man squad for a tournament. You just can't do that.
Or a 30-man squad.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's my takeaway. It's a 30-man squad. With respect to Ricci, Fodoruncio, Locatelli is Locatelli. He plays at Juventus, and he was, for me, most importantly, he was a part of that winning Italy squad, and he was a key contributor. That has to count for something for a team that have lost a lot of experience. This was my main takeaway. Now, Locatelli, you're right, Carlo, he's not the most informed player in world football at present. But for a team that are lacking the experience of a few years ago, for a team that have lost a lot of those key players and key figures in the dressing room, I think that alone was enough to warrant calling him into a 30-man squad, then decide. And also the Allegri factor, which we won't go into, Carlo, too much depth. But of course, this has been a player not at his best, perhaps because of what has been going on at club level. I don't know. So Locatelli, for me, had to have been in there. I actually saw Locatelli. He was up the road from me here in Milan the day after, having a quiet dinner with his partner, and I felt for him. I really, really, really felt for him not to have been part of that squad. There were a lot of fans asking him for photos, and I feel devastated for him. We saw he took to Instagram and he put up a black page, a black screen, obviously no words for what has happened. And you do feel for these players. Yes, not at top form, we know that, but a frustrating season at club level would have felt he would have been a certainty to have gone to this competition, and to not have made a 30-man team, for me.
But I just got to say though, I kind of think that Spalletti did the right thing here. If he wasn't going to bring him, it's better to take that nonsense here before you get closer to the tournament.
But does he not warrant a chance in training a couple of weeks?
That's the thing. Well, the thing is that I think that he's kind of already decided that he was not going to bring him on. And I think the closer you get to the tournament, that becomes a bigger talking point. Rather bite the bullet this far off in the 30-man provisional squad, because he had already decided, scelta tecnica, I'm not taking him. So you might as well just, bite the bullet, let that all die down, and then build up to the tournament where that's no longer a burning talking point. Because I think when you go into a tournament, you want to have as much stability and calm as possible. Had Locatelli been snubbed on June 6th, when the final squad list is going to be determined, between June 6th and the first opening games, less than a week or thereabouts, that would have been what he would have been asked every single day. Now he did that 2-3 weeks in advance. That will all have been died down. There's a new, the new cycle has moved on, and they can focus on the players actually there. I think that from a tactical point of view, from a media tactical point of view, was a wise decision if he was not going to bring him, which is obvious. He was not part of his plans.
Yeah, I think technically, I think that's a good point, Nima. I think technically, the only explanation I have is that Spalletti wanted 2 registas. He wanted 2 registas, and he sees Jorginho and Cristante as his 2 registas. Fagioli will tell you that his strongest position is as a regista as well. So if you're desperate, you've got a third there. Mancini. Even Scalvini, okay, he's not there anymore, but when he picked his 30-man squad, maybe he looked at that and thought, you know what, I've got lots of registas, and I just don't see Locatelli as a mezzala or in that 2-man centre. I mean, I disagree with that, but maybe I'm just thinking inside of the head of Spalletti. Maybe that's how he comes to his decision. Maybe his performance against Venezuela, where we got overrun in that friendly, where Locatelli was playing, really overrun, and he's not the most dynamic of players in terms of intensity and running and covering the ground and getting up and down box to box. He's not over 5 yards, he's not the quickest either, I don't think. So whether that played a part in it as well, maybe. But he played well in the autumn under Spalletti, in the autumn games. So I don't understand it, but there we go. Are there any other exclusions from the squad, Adrian? Are there anyone else that you think should have been in there that wasn't in there, or are we just kind of lacking options? Full stop.
Yeah. Look, I think the latter. I think it's again with a focus on 26. If Spalletti is going to make bold decisions like this now to implement the style he wants to play now, I'm all for it. And we may agree to disagree on some of the calls, but I think it's more about the squad and what he's trying to build as opposed to specific individual players. And so if Spalletti is doing this with a longer term vision, then I'm happy not to dispute this player should be here or that player should be there and really back the system and what we've seen. And so, no, we are not spoiled for choice with an abundance of quality that have missed out. Look at the Germany squad. So some of the Dortmund players who've made a Champions League final miss out on the squad. I think a lot of those players would probably start for us, but we're in a position where we are evolving and adapting under a new manager with new ideas. And so I think it's more about having some faith in the system and what Spalletti is bringing to the table. I'm more so looking at now, how do we play? How do we line up? Do we adapt to the fact that we are now missing some key figures that perhaps would have allowed us to play in Spalletti's traditional style? Do we adapt with what we have? These are the question marks I have coming into the tournament now, as opposed to focusing on anyone in particular. I think when we talk about individuals, though, it is the injured players who I do feel for. Scalvini, the absolute latest one with that meaningless Serie A fixture that counted for nothing. That is a tough pill to swallow. And again, another young man I feel for.
Yeah, absolutely. We will come on to the injuries because we're going to do this. We're going to go through Italy's strengths first, and then we'll come on to Italy's weaknesses, and that's where we'll discuss the injuries because we really have been decimated in that respect. So Italy's strengths. Looking at our squad, Nima, what do we have going for us, and what will our opponents fear about us?
I think what Italy do have in terms of going forward, I think defensive stability kind of speaks for itself. You've got Donnarumma, Vicario, you've got fantastic goalkeepers, probably together with Brazil, the best depth in goalkeeping in the world. Maybe even Germany you can throw in there. Even with the, and same thing with in terms of defense, playing a back three, as I've been arguing for, that look, you got to look at what you've got. I think the back three is the best way to play for Italy with the current crop of players. And I think with that back three, with Bastoni and Mancini and whoever else he wants to start with, I think I'm not worried about defense. It's when you move forward. And for me, Spalletti's system, the most important thing going forward is the midfield three. The rest kind of really just is built around that. And the midfield, the starting midfield, Jorginho, Barella, and Pellegrini, and that is the starting midfield. That is a midfield that I think is Italy's strength. Once again, the central midfield, because that is a midfield that can do pretty much everything. You have Barella, who is a tuttocampista in every essence of the word. You have a Pellegrini who is not a real 10, but he's not a real 8. He's kind of something in between, so he can link up to the strikers. And you have Jorginho, who we know what he is. We know how safe passer he is. We know what his intelligence. And of course, up front, for me, the future, as I've been saying for a couple of years now, the future of Italian attacker number 9, the prima punta, Gianluca Scamacca, who finally, after Christmas, after New Year's, has started to demonstrate the incredible talent that he has. This ability of his to create something out of nothing, his ability to link up, play with his back against the goal, this incredible technique, which is very Ibrahimovic-esque. That is what I think has got to, that speaks for Italy.
Would you go with that, Adrian? Anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's spot on there. I'm very, very content with the strong midfield under Spalletti in this system. So that for me has to be that's important. And we're very lucky that Pellegrini has come on under De Rossi in recent seasons to become that third starting midfielder there. I think that's going to be crucial for us. And yeah, I'm right. Defensively in goal, we are solid, and we know that historically that has been a fundamental of our game. Yes, Scamacca, wonderful. Immediately though, when I think about Scamacca, then what's the alternative if he's not scoring? And that's where I'm starting to think. So we've got the strengths in our 11. I think then when we look, what are our replacements? What's our backup plan? We've already lost some players. That's where I start to lose a bit of confidence. So in attacking sense, we do have players who are capable. I'm a big Chiesa fan, so I would really enjoy watching Chiesa and Scamacca doing their thing together. But where do the goals come from? So as an attacking unit, if we're not making an impact early on in the tournament, we're going to need some additional support. So I think midfield, if we can really hone in on those three, particularly Barella for me, who is our star. I think Barella is the player who can, if we are going to go deep in this tournament, Nicolo Barella is a player who I think is our strength, is our hope. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him off the back of another strong season with Inter. I also like some of the younger players coming through. Cambiasso's a player I think can go to another level this tournament. Really, really keen. And I think when we start to break down the formation, I think given Di Lorenzo's recent form in his season, Cambiasso is certainly someone who can, I think, push into this 11 and perhaps be a surprise player of the tournament for us as well. So a few individuals from a strength perspective, I hope can really blossom this summer in Germany.
Can I just, before we move on, I just want to highlight Bastoni. I think Bastoni is going to be key this tournament. I think we're now entering, not just at Inter, but also in the Italian national team, the golden age of Bastoni. This season for me, watching him develop, because we know that he's a fantastic passer of the ball. His read of the game is brilliant. His running, his crossing, all of these things. But my question mark around him has always been defensively. Well, this season he's taken massive strides, and he's been a real leader at Inter. I think Bastoni and Barella, those are the two players, and Scamacca, like from the strong central line, from goal to striker, that's the key for Italy for me. From Donnarumma to Bastoni to Barella to Scamacca, that's going to be the important thing, because I think in these international tournaments, the team with the strongest, most stable central line usually does really well.
Yeah, and he needs to be a leader for Italy now as well, because we've lost Acerbi and obviously Chiellini, Bonucci were the leaders before, and now he has got to be the main man in the centre. So he has to play. I always say in football you have it's like in a movie, you have leading actors and you have supporting actors. Sometimes you can have fantastic supporting actors in Hollywood, but they can't be the main man. And we see that certainly in more than any other position in football at centre back. It's you see a lot of centre backs who will look fantastic next to a maybe a more experienced world-class defender, but when they have to be the main man, can they do it? So that is why we now, with Acerbi out, we need Bastoni to step up and lead that defence like he has. For how he's done so well for Inter this season. I would also, just before we move on to the weaknesses, I would highlight Luciano Spalletti. I think out of everyone, he is our biggest weapon, without doubt. And the reason for that is that international football has changed. It's not like it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, where the biggest job for a manager was managing your national team or managing a national team. Nowadays, that's changed. Club football, the biggest jobs for a manager now, where the biggest money is club football now. You don't get many elite, world-class managers that are managing national teams. And we've seen that. I mean, you look at the biggest nations. We'll talk about the favourites in a minute. The two favourites for this tournament are England and France. Gareth Southgate is somebody that's probably going to hinder England's chances of winning the tournament. Didier Deschamps, I know this might sound crazy, but for me, he's not a top coach either, despite the fact he's got to 2 World Cup finals, won one, got to a Euro final, And you look at all the other nations, there's not many nations that you would say have an elite manager. Now, we have one, and he can, raise us to a level maybe above what we really are. So my hope is that Spalletti can do that for us. Yes, he hasn't had the time to work with us. International football is different to club football. You're not training players every single day. So it's not as easy as it would be for a club. But my hope is that Spalletti can elevate us to a level above our probably what we really are. let's look at the weaknesses now. Then there's quite a few of them. We try and not be too negative, but me and Nima always try and do on this podcast is we always try and be honest. So we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the injuries and the missing players. Now, we have been really unlucky. In fact, this morning I was working on an article actually on all the missing players in Euro 2024. There's no doubt about it. We are the country that have been affected more than any other nation. It's not even close. And we've lost. We forget about it now. We've lost Sandro Tonali to a betting ban. He would have started in midfield. We've lost Francesco Acerbi, which I think is a big blow because we now lose the inter-block. If we're going to go with that three-man defence, which I don't think is actually still done, I'm still not sure that's absolutely guaranteed in the tournament. We'll come to the formation after. We lose that inter-block, which is crucial. Having that a three-man inter-defence plus one of the wing-backs as well, I think that's really huge. So we've lost that. Then Berardi, he might not start. He may have started. If we were playing a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, he possibly would have been one of the wingers. So we've lost him. And then we've lost Scalvini. We've lost Udogie, our two big young talents. And Zaniolo as well. Okay, he hasn't had a great season. But these are all players that would have gone to the Euros. Half of them would have started and half of them would have been, very useful players in the tournament. So how much is this gonna affect us, Adrian? Let's start with you.
Well, your question, what is our area of weakness? Our weakness was our depth already before these concerns. Now it's going to be really put to the test. I love the point you mentioned on Spalletti. I think that's definitely an underrated point because we do have that, but the manager can only work with the tools he has. And what was already a squad lacking in depth and experience now with those names you mentioned, and Tonali, another one that, of course, people may forget about. But we've gone from, if we recall that midfield that helped us win Euro 2020 to what's there now, we say Jorginho, Barella, Pellegrini, okay, but Jorginho hasn't been playing 90 minutes consistently, regularly, and to play in tournament football is also different. Barella, okay, Pellegrini's come back on, but there's not much depth there already. To then miss out with Tonali and the others, an attacking sense, look at our attacking list. I believe we should play with a 3-5-2 from an attacking sense because if we can start Scamacca and Chiesa, we don't really have the attacking firepower on the bench to come on and make a difference. If we had Berardi, Zaniolo, okay, not top level players at top form, but it gives me some hope. Berardi off the bench, capable, who knows? Zaniolo can do the unexpected from time to time. So a squad that we're already tested by its depth, now severely tested by its depth. Scalvini, for me, one that hurts the most, obviously given the timing. But again, a young player who's emerging and going to that next level and now misses out on an opportunity because of a meaningless Serie A fixture 10 days out from the tournament. Ridiculous. And now across the board, there are just so many frustrations because of these absentees that...
Can I just stop you there, though, Adrian? The ACLs, because this is something that Nima has complained about a lot. I mean, when you think that we've lost Giorgio Scalvini, who I've still I hadn't been completely sold on him. I'll be honest with you, but the last few weeks he really has grown. We saw him; he was fantastic in that Europa League final when he came on. And whichever way you look at it, if you're looking at 20-year-olds around the world, defenders, there isn't really many you can put above him in terms of experience, in terms of even some of the underlying. If you go deep and look at the underlying numbers of his things like interceptions and the way the tackles that he makes and the read of the game and everything, he's right up there. He was our big hope really in defence along with Calafiori. Then you've got Chiesa, you've got Zaniolo, you've got two players who had the potential at the time before their injuries to be, maybe generational players, might be taking it too far, but world-class players potentially, both of them. And they've never been the same. And Zaniolo, I don't want to write him off, but it's looking unlikely he's going to be the player, even close to the player he could have been. And Chiesa, since he's come back 2 years now, he hasn't been some of that. Some of that might be Allegri, but still, he's not got that acceleration, that burst past his man that he used to have. We hope he get it back. And so that's 3 players with ACLs. I mean, what is going on here with Italy? This is too many. There's too many now for me for it to just be bad luck and be a coincidence. There's something that's not right there. Whether it's the training, whether it's the conditioning, whether it's the pitches, maybe the training pitches, not just the stadium pitches. I don't know. There's something. There needs to be some kind of escalation because we are losing so many top players through what's going on.
I can tell you from my knowledge, without going into too much depth, but there are a lot of there's a lot of feedback I've heard from players in the game here, particularly foreign players coming in, that do suggest that the training methods and techniques and styles and approaches and lack of rest, most importantly, is something which is very different here in Italy compared to other parts of the world. And coming from Australia and obviously knowing a lot about England and the US, the way that they do things there from a sports science background. In Australia, we have some of the best in the business in that work at top clubs in England, work at top clubs around the world in an array of sports. And a lot of what they preach is certainly not done nor respected here in Italy. And that's across multiple levels. And I think there is a bit of a lack of understanding given modern day methods and practices in training. And then when you throw on top of that the current demands and schedules of modern day footballers, how much football they're playing, how regularly they're playing, I don't think it quite works. And I think there's a gap in the level of understanding. And obviously the outcome is that we're seeing a lot more injuries of a serious note. So it's definitely an area, football related, that Italy do need to improve in and very quickly. Otherwise, sadly, we will see more of these, and they aren't just coincidences, Carlo, as you touched on.
I mean, Nima, imagine our team at this tournament now with Chiesa and Zaniolo if they hadn't have had those ACL injuries. I know it's a hypothetical, but I mean, we're talking about, we're complaining about our attack. I mean, I think our attack, we don't have a single player in our squad that has double-digit goals. I think Barella is our top scorer, a midfielder with 9 goals, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, can you imagine Chiesa and Zaniolo without their ACL injuries? I mean,
well, but Zaniolo in particular, he was the way that he used to, he was similarly to what Jude Bellingham does, doesn't he? When he goes deep, grabs the ball, and starts just pushing forward, and he's just like an unstoppable force down the center of the pitch. A big guy, strong guy, physical, but also technically gifted, driving forward. That's what he used to be able to do. He can't do that anymore. And I mean, this particular team, Spalletti wants to play his 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 hybrid. Well, he could have done that with Zaniolo if Zaniolo had that natural progression. Same with Chiesa down the wing. It would have been a completely different scenario completely. I mean, you could have had Pellegrini as kind of an inverted winger, and then you had Di Marco kind of going on the left anyway, as like he did, like Mancini similarly did with Spinazzola 3-4 years ago. I think it's so sad because I think we were robbed of 2 generational players. I think the talent that both of them possessed, especially in the modern game. I mean, Federico Chiesa was like a heat-seeking missile. You just couldn't stop him. When he decided to put his head down and go towards goal, you could not stop him. Now you can. And that's what's so sad about this, that 2 world-class players, 2 potentially generational talents, Italy were robbed of.
And now we are, if we're looking at the attack, and I've mentioned there the lack of goals that we have in the team, and Adrian, you mentioned before about the lack of depth. Are we really preying on Scamacca to bring his form from Atalanta from March onwards, really, middle of March onwards, which was incredible. I think after Cole Palmer and Harry Kane, he was the best scorer in Europe's 5 major leagues. That tells you how fantastic he was at the end of the season. Are we praying that he brings his form and that Chiesa somehow manages to refine some of that great form that we saw at the last Euros? Are we kind of praying on those 2 if we're going to make an impact on this tournament, at least in terms of offensively?
I think so. Look, but at the same time, Italy are a team that you look at the tournaments we've won, there's never been a player score 10 goals in a tournament. So I think they certainly need to be at top form, be dangerous, put the defenses under pressure. But we saw last tournament, There were goals from midfield. We were goals across the park. 2006 World Cup. Luca Toni was our number 9. He scored 2 goals in one game for the tournament. So historically, we don't rely on that one player to score a lot of goals. But I think Scamacca, what's always excited me about Scamacca is that he just brings something completely different to the table. And if he's capable of what many aren't, then all of a sudden we're brought into the match in a different light. I think Scamacca and Chiesa, if they can really figure it out, and if they can play anywhere near their best, we're going to be a hell of a lot better than otherwise. We lack the depth in attack. The attack is certainly, again, if we're chasing a game, match day 1 against Albania, hopefully not. But if we're behind and we're chasing that game and the hour marks come and Scamacca and Chiesa have been underwhelming and we need to bring some players off the bench, well, it's at that point where you start to scratch your head and think, okay, we don't really have the reinforcements here with respect to Raspadori, Retegui, whoever else comes in, or Solini, whoever comes into the match. So, yes, I think the answer is that, more so reliant from consistent performances over goals. I think we have goals across the board in this team, but I think a lot will depend on the form of particularly Scamacca in this tournament.
I mean, when it comes to just the games themselves, going into every game, and I'm looking at Spalletti to kind of do what he did for Napoli when they won the Scudetto, in the sense that depending on who you play, he starts with his strongest team, kills off the game, then rotates. I do not want to see Italy rotating to rest players and then, if need be, chase the game. He can't do that. He has to be proactive with this team. There's not enough quality here for Italy to rely on chasing the game. It's just not there. And I don't think there's enough experience is there either, given the players that Italy have lost from the Euros 3 years ago. So I think what I want to see from him is, okay, you're playing Albania. What are their weaknesses? Okay, Scamacca, Retegui. And then once the game is won, then you start making substitutions. Okay, what kind of game plan are you expecting against Croatia? What kind of game plan are you expecting against Spain? And then you adapt the lineup accordingly in order to get the best out of from the get-go, and then rotate towards the end. Because I don't want to see Italy chasing the game against Albania, Croatia, or Spain, because they could lose all 3. Potentially, if that happens.
Yeah, my worry is, and I know we've touched on this already, that the lack of depth in this team. We've already spoken about how many injuries we've got already that's limited our options. But we're recording this before the friendlies, and touch wood, we don't get any more injuries. The chances are, we are not going to go through the whole tournament without some injuries, without some suspensions, without some players that are not fully fit, without players that are going to need rest because you're playing, twice, 3 times a week. So it's going to take it out of them. And I look at our squad and I just think that, okay, if our strongest available 11 plays, we've still got a pretty good team, I think. But then, I look down the team and I think, well, Jorginho, he can't play twice a week. I watch a lot of Arsenal. Arteta knows that and hasn't been playing in every game. He plays one game, then he's out. Then I'm thinking in a Euros, we can't imagine that. Or what, we're gonna have to rely on Jorginho to play every single game? He can't. He can't play 2 games, 3 games a week at a very high level. He can play 1 game a week at a very high level. And then you're probably going to have the rest in. So if you're going to have to rest Jorginho, who comes in for him? Well, the players that are going to come in for him are not good. I think are good enough. Cristante, or what? Are we going to put in Cristante to every other game and expect to go far? So this is my problem. And then you look at the other positions like Chiesa. Can he play every single game 90 minutes? He probably can't. So somebody's going to have to come in for Chiesa at least at points of the game, whether it's the last half an hour of a match. Chiesa's going to come out. Who's going to come in? Is that going to weaken the team? So these are, there's all these things. And then you add on that the threat that there's an injury. I mean, could you imagine if we lost, Barella and then it's game over? Can you imagine? And so obviously, look, there's always a bit of luck you need in tournaments with injuries, with suspensions, with the route as well, and we hope that goes in our favour. But we're already skating on thin ice as it is,
which is exactly why I think a quarterfinal is kind of where I think is where you can ask of this team, and anything above that is an overperformance, and anything under that is somewhat disappointing. But again, my focus is on 2026. I want this to be a learning experience for this group of players and this coach, with an eye on 2026.
Okay, well, you said quarterfinal. I think we're all looking at the quarterfinal. But first of all, we need to get out of the group. So we should the group should be flashing up now on the screen, and Italy's fixtures for the group stage. So a very, very tough group. Probably, I think there's two groups of death, that, along with the France, Holland, and Austria, who I think are a very, very good team. And I think, is it Poland, the other team in that group? That's a group of death. And then we've got the other group of death in the Euros. Group B with Spain, Croatia, and Albania. Let's start with Albania, because that is our opening game of the tournament on June the 15th in Dortmund. Nima, there's no other way of putting it. This is a must-win game.
Without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. And it's also a game that probably means the most for Albania. This is a derby for Albania. Albania have one job this tournament, and that is to beat Italy at the Euros. They know they don't stand a chance against Spain, and they could probably get hammered there. Same thing against Croatia. But Italy is the one that's the opening game. It's a big game because of, obviously, the geographically and also, culture, people moving about and all that. So it's a big game for Albania. They're going to turn up spitting fire. And Italy need to be prepared for that. It is a must-win game. There's no need to beat around the bush. Italy have to win this, and they have to do it because also, look, Italy, when they ease into tournaments, they tend to do better. When they have to struggle, it becomes this kind of pressure, and it becomes almost unbearable. And I'm not sure. Previously, Italy squads have had the quality. They've had Campioni who can handle that. I'm not sure this group of players can handle that. So I want them to make life easy for themselves by easing into the tournament, a comfortable 2-3-0 win, no drama, no injuries, no sending offs, no nothing like that. Just ease into it, be in control, get yourself into a good mental headspace with this in the beginning of this tournament, and then build upon that. Because as things look, essentially 3 or 4 points could be enough to get through from the group. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 6 out of 8 third place teams go through anyway.
Four of six.
Four of six. Yeah. So essentially, it would be a disaster if Italy don't go through. So they have to make life easy for themselves, and the key to that is to beat Albania, but be prepared, be calm, be prepared, and go in. And again, like I said, the way that Spalletti won the Scudetto for Napoli when he rotated really well was that he started his best team, won the game early on, then substituted, and then had players rested, and they went the whole stretch and won the Scudetto. I want to see that approach here as well.
Yeah, I don't think we could take anything for granted with our team. But Albania do have a lot of Serie A based players, so they will know us. They will know us well, and obviously Albania is so close to Italy. They understand our culture as well. The second game, Adrian, though, is against Spain on June the 20th in Gelsenkirchen. Now, at Euro 2020, Spain were the team, we were there, that gave Italy their hardest match. What do you make of the Spain team at Euro 2024? Because it has changed a little bit, different manager, a few different players.
Spain, that match at Euro 2020 was very special. They were a fantastic team, the Spanish team. And of course, hopefully we coming into this match off the back of a nice solid opening round win. But you're right, Carlo, we cannot take anything for granted, because we've seen it happen before where sometimes they've taken it too easy against some of these weaker or lesser countries, and it doesn't go so well. But look, coming in off a solid win to start the group stage, going into a match against Spain, which could be decisive for qualification immediately, which could then potentially open the door to, let's say, Jorginho maybe resting against Croatia. This is crucial. This is absolutely crucial. And with respect to Spain, I think we come in against a Spanish squad that they've got their own issues. They're not the same level of Spanish squad we've seen in the last 10, 15 years. There is quality. There are top players that are in great form. There are some of the best players. Rodri, immediately you think of the couple of seasons he's had recently with Manchester City. But I look at the Spanish squad, and I think they're a team that, as they tend to do, they will maintain a lot of possession. I just look at them in an attacking sense, and it's not an attack that really look, I'm not scared of this attack, especially with the stability defensively that we have. Obviously, Morata, I think Morata is the captain these days for Spain as well, which is, look, a player obviously we know very well following here in Serie A on his 15 moves back and forth to Juventus. But it's a team from an attacking sense that perhaps lacks some of the firepower, but there is quality. Dani Olmo won in there as well. Obviously, Yamal was still 16, Barca. So they've got these players, but I don't think it's a team that we should fear. I think this is a team, again, with an eye on to 2026, that we should be confident going in, that even though we are short, we do lack depth, that with Spalletti, with this style, this is a great test for us. And I think we should go in with confidence. I don't think we should go in and ease ourselves into the game, go in confidently, playing our own football. And with that, looking at the Spanish squad, the Croatian squad, I think the Croatian squad could also lack goals as well. They're a very experienced squad. But I think we come into this group and I think we give ourselves a good chance on merit to beat all of these teams. But we could also, it could go wrong. I think Spalletti needs to stay true to himself. I agree. We need to win the matches, then rest. And look, I think Albania match day 1 in Dortmund, a place that brings back great memories for every Italian football fan. We must win that. There's no doubt about it, because if we go into that Spain game chasing from minute 1, I think we could endure some serious problems. If we go into match day 2 with 3 points in the bank, knowing that qualification is up for grabs, I think we will see the best version of Spalletti and the way that he plays football with his team. So I think a lot will be dependent on what happens in Dortmund on June 15.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, I think Spain are similar to us in the sense that they're a little bit in between generations. I think that they are looking at the World Cup as well. I mean, they do have some incredible youngsters. I mean, Lamine Yamal at 16 is gonna break the record for the youngest player at the Euros, and he's an astonishing player. Kubasi at the back, I'm assuming he's in the squad. He's fantastic at Barcelona as well. Williams is a real live wire. They do have some really exciting players. Of course, Pedri, of course, who's had so many injuries since the last Euros. Rodri. They do have quality, but I think they're a little bit in between generations. And as for Modric's Croatia, they still have that special midfield, but they are an aging team, and I totally agree on their attack. They don't have anything in attack. And I hope that doesn't jinx it now, but they don't have a punch in attack. They can pass you to death in midfield, but they're a little bit impotent in the final third. So
I mean, it's a group of, isn't it? It's a group of in between generations. Croatia a little bit in between their golden generation that brought them to 2 World Cup medals, and Italy having the same thing there, and also with Spain. So, but with Croatia, I do want to raise a little bit of a warning here, because this is the last chance of the Perisic, Modric, Brozovic generation. This is their last chance to do something, and I think, and Croatia, the character they have, the mentality they have, they overperform almost when they're in a tournament. They unite in a way that is very, very unique at international level. So I do want to, I absolutely don't want Italy to turn up to that Croatia game having to chase that game at all in any shape.
They're also our bogey team. There isn't a team in international football a worse record against than Croatia. If I'm not mistaken, I thought we'd only beaten them once in our history, but I saw the other day that we have never beaten them. Either we've never beaten them or we've only beaten them once. It might be we've never beaten them in a competitive game. But what I do know is that there isn't a country that we have a worse record against. They are our bogey side. So we don't do well against Balkan teams, actually. Like even historically, like the former Yugoslavia, Serbia, these nations, they just seem to, again, I think it's a cultural thing. They seem to understand us tactically. They're the best at breaking up the game and all that kind of stuff. They know how to get to us. So it won't be an easy game against Croatia at all.
And Croatia seem to have pretty much they're a bogey team for all the big nations. I mean, Brazil last time we saw in a game that Brazil completely dominated but ended up going home. Germany have struggled against them historically as well. So they you need to watch out for Croatia. They can really cause problems.
They are giant killers. They do punch above their weight for sure, given the size of their population. Right, let's go to the big question now then. So let's name our starting 11 for the Euros. You should see a lineup graphic that comes up. This is the team that at the time of recording, is predicted to be Luciano Spalletti's default starting 11 as of now. Obviously, the 2 friendlies could change that, and other things, training and everything. But we're looking at the moment at really what would probably be a 3-4-2-1. I know the graphic shows a 3-4-3, but it's a 3-4-2-1 really, and it's Donnarumma in goal. It's Bastoni, Buongiorno taking Acerbi's place probably, and then Darmian as the right centre back. The wing backs Di Marco and probably Di Lorenzo, and then the centre mids Jorginho and Barella, and then Pellegrini and Chiesa behind Scamacca. So that is probably what Spalletti. That's what is predicted to be Spalletti's default 11. But I'm not sure yet. I still wouldn't surprise me if he goes back to a 4, but we'll see. Let's put ourselves in Spalletti's shoes though, and choose what would be our starting 11. So if we start with the goalkeeper, this should be an easy one. We're all Donnarumma in goal.
Donnarumma.
Yeah, Donnarumma. Okay, so no further discussion needed there. Let's go to the defence. Now, 2 questions here. First of all, does Spalletti go with a 3-man defence or a 4-man defence? Let's start with that. Nima, you go first, and then Adrian, you can come straight in after Nima.
No, I think he has to go with a back 3. I think given... I do see your point about him maybe doing a back 4, and I think that he will be very fluid in that throughout the tournament with the formation in games, not just with the starting formation ahead of games, but also in games, depending on what needs doing. And the fact that he's got his captain at Napoli, Di Lorenzo, there, and he's got, he's got his midfield 3. And as I said, for me, the most important thing in a Spalletti system is the midfield, the central midfield, the fluctuation between in his 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. He can do the same thing here with Pellegrini being his Zielinski, so to speak, where they are a midfield 3 or a double pivot with him moving forward. I think that's what's going to be key here. I think the rest is it depends on the game. But if we're just focusing on the Albania game, given who Albania are and how they look, I would play a 3-4-2-1, 3-5-2. And for me, it's Bastoni to the left. I would have Buongiorno or Calafiori in the middle, and I'd have Mancini to the right, because Mancini's a mean SOB, and you need to have a mean SOB in defense. And also, he's become much more polished in recent years, especially this season. I think whatever happened with the last 18 months, Mourinho and De Rossi have, they've figured out the right medication for him to calm down, because he's got the right balance of this kind of the meanness that you need, but he doesn't cross the line into head loss, and that's important.
I'm with you, Nima, with everything. I hadn't thought so much about the medication of Mancini, but I also see your point there. I'm in agreement. I think a 3-man defense definitely. With the Darmian debate, if Acerbi was there, it was Darmian, Acerbi, and Bastoni, I would have picked Darmian. But I would also lean towards Mancini here as well for his physical attributes and what he brings. And I think he has matured a little in recent times. So, look, I think we should definitely play with a 3. And I do like Buongiorno. I do like Calafiori. I think Calafiori could be one that another could potentially burst onto the scene at this tournament. So I'm very, very content. And with what you said as well with Bastoni, I think it's his tournament to really lead from the front in defense. I think he has a 100%. Big opportunity here. So I'll stick with the 3. And whether we play 3-5-2, 3-4-2-1, I think we will definitely start in that factor. But open for your debate there, Carlo, if you think that we should potentially play with a 4.
I'm really torn. On this. I think if the whole inter-block was there, I would have, and also looking at the preliminary 30-man squad that Spalletti picked, I think he did have that in mind for sure to go with a back 3. That's shown also by the sheer number of centre backs that he called up. Then with the Acerbi injury, he didn't initially call Gatti up. He put him on standby. He only called Gatti up after the second injury with Scalvini. So again, we'll see who he then cuts from the preliminary squad to the 26-man squad. I don't think another defender will be cut. So he's going to go with one less than initially maybe he planned on having. So that makes me think that maybe it might be a mix. Maybe one game he will go with a 3, maybe he'll go with a 4. Maybe it is going to be a hybrid, like Nima said, in which case it's kind of both. Maybe Di Lorenzo will be a right centre back, and then he'll be able to then move over to be the right back. Most teams in defensive phases will probably defend with a back 4. Often will, maybe a 4-4-2. Maybe he'll put Chiesa and Scamacca as the front 2, or maybe Chiesa will go left midfield, or I don't know, something like that. It'll be interesting. We'll see. We'll see. The friendlies will tell us more on that. I think that what is clear though, that is if we do go with a back 3, we now do have, for me, less. Well, certainly, there's no doubt about it. We have less options in terms of depth, in terms of top centre backs. We're now looking at one injury and maybe a Mancini or a Gatti has to come in, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, do we want to play a back 3 with Gatti in the team, or do we just want to go to a back 4 and still have 2 strong centre backs? These are the questions that are going around my head. So let's go with the 3-man. Let's go with the 3-man defence to start with. Midfield though, the midfield I think is probably easier to choose our first choice. Well, actually, no. Let's do the wing backs first. The wing backs. Who do we pick as a wing backs? I mean, I would go with Di Marco. I think picks himself now that Udogie is injured, and then on the right, if it's a 3-4-2-1, do you go Di Lorenzo, or do you go for one of the younger options that you mentioned, Adrian, before, Cambiasso, or even a Bellanova?
Well, my answer is pretty simple. I would be more than happy to see Di Marco and Cambiasso, but I think he will start Di Marco and Di Lorenzo. I just feel he could potentially start in that way. If we were to play 3-5-2 with the wing backs, I think look, Spalletti, the relationship we don't know, but the trust that he would have in that player. Di Lorenzo has been nowhere near his best this season. I would like to see Cambiasso. I think I think we've seen a lot of growth in that player. So I guess my answer would be Di Marco, Cambiasso, with the 3 midfielders that sort of sell themselves. But I think we will learn a bit. Turkey are 2 friendlies. Hopefully we can tinker around with this and figure it out. But I think it will be Di Marco, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Di Lorenzo in there.
I think you're right, and I hope that we're both wrong, because I don't want to see Di Lorenzo as a right wing back. I just don't think that's his role. What I like about Di Lorenzo, whether it was at Napoli, whether it was for Italy, in a back 4, is his intelligence, is the fact that he knows when to invert and allow someone else to push forward down the other wing, his read of the game when he's in form, and so on and so forth. As to him marauding up and down a wing and doing those runs, I just don't see where he is in his career. That's what he wants. That's particularly what he's very good at. Oh. So what I want to see is, and also given that you have Di Marco on the other side, and Di Marco has a left foot that is world class, but Di Marco can't dribble past a cone, let alone a player. He just can't. I mean, we've seen it for year after year after year. He just cannot do that, and he has the stamina of me at 44. He'll go off in the 60th minute. So you need to have some sort of guarantees on the other side. And there, I want someone who can dribble past this man. I want someone who's fast, who has pace, and also has tactical intelligence. So rather Cambiasso or Bellanova down that right in order to make up for the other side. Because otherwise, if you don't have any threat down the wings, you become very, very easy to read. And because it's easier for teams to congest the middle than it is to control the wings. And I think you need to have that kind of situation where Di Marco's left foot and his set pieces and crosses, but also the attacking depth down the other flank, that you have someone who can overlap, who can beat his man, who is quick. So for me, Cambiasso or Bellanova, but not Di Lorenzo, not at this point, no. But I think you're right. I think he's going to start with Di Lorenzo. I think you're absolutely right.
You said it well. Hopefully we're wrong, but we're right.
Yeah, I would go with that as well. I do though think that we need to have some experience there, don't we? We need to have some bridge from the last Euros. So that's why I think Di Lorenzo probably has to be in there. Let's move on to the midfield though, because I think this should be quite easy, really, regardless of whether we play with a back 4 or a back 3. the midfield isn't as strong as it was in Euro 2020, but we do still have some quality. I mean, my midfield would be Jorginho, Barella, and Pellegrini. I think it picks itself pretty much. But if we need more legs, then maybe Pellegrini is dropped for a Fratesi, or maybe as a wild card. Again, the friendlies will determine a lot on this. Fagioli, maybe, who does have the legs, who can get up and down. Would you? I'm assuming both of you guys would go with that three as well.
I'm fully on board. Yeah, fully on board. And obviously, if it's a 3-4-2-1, and maybe Pellegrini plays a little more advanced, but I think you're spot on there. More legs required. Maybe he's the one sacrificed from the opening minute, but Barella, Jorginho will be pivotal to this. Pellegrini, if we are to play those three across, I think that's a certainty for Spalletti to start the tournament.
The only thing I want to add to that is that I want to see Spalletti unleash Nicolo Barella. Now that Nicolo Barella has footballers with an IQ to the right of him, which he doesn't have at Inter with Denzel Dumfries, where he has to think for two people. Here, he doesn't need to do that, because whether it's Di Lorenzo, Cambiasso, or Bellanova, the three of them individually on their own have a higher football IQ than Denzel Dumfries does, and also technically as well. So this means that Barella can be unshackled. We can finally see a Barella that doesn't have to play for three and defend for two and think for three. He actually can just be Barella. And I think given that he is a world-class midfielder and Italy are not spoiled with world-class players, to lift the shackles off Barella's feet, that is the main thing I want to see in midfield for Italy.
Okay, so let's come to the attack now. And assuming we go with a 3-4-2-1, I think, again, I think it picks itself. It has to be Chiesa and let's say Pellegrini, although Pellegrini can form a three, can be a bit deeper. Chiesa and Pellegrini behind Scamacca. I want, and I saw this suggested by a few people, I want Spalletti, if he is going to go with a 3-4-2-1, to try and replicate the kind of what Atalanta did with Lookman. Chiesa to be the Lookman for behind Scamacca. We all saw what Lookman did in that Europa League final. It's just magical performance from him. Chiesa to be the Lookman, Pellegrini to be the De Ketelaere, maybe, I don't know, and Scamacca to be Scamacca that we've seen. I mean, if they were managed to do that, that would be great. But my concern here is Chiesa has never convinced me in a central role, or certainly in the front two. Like if it was a 3-5-2, strictly a 3-5-2, like Allegri's played at Juventus, I just don't like Chiesa. We know he hates them. We know from he doesn't like format. He doesn't like playing there. He wants to play on the wing. It doesn't look like he's going to play in a wide role. So let's try and put him in a Lookman role where he does still have that license and that freedom to go wide. But if he's rigid in a central role, and Spalletti has talked about this, I just don't see him succeeding. So first of all, what would you play? Let's start with you, Adrian. First of all, what would you play as your attack? And then secondly, how would you use Chiesa to try and get the best out of him?
It's a very interesting one because he does start for me. I think there's no doubt about that. But if we were to have him coming off the bench, it's a lot better than what we currently have coming off the bench. If we were to start with the Scamacca, Retegui in those roles, which perhaps they're a bit more familiar with, and then bringing in Chiesa into a match to play with that freedom, particularly if we need to score to get back into a match, it could be something that could work. But you are right, Chiesa needs to play in those positions that suit. He's proven that he's played every position that exists under Allegri at Juventus. But look, I think unlocking his potentially in that Lookman type role, like you say, could be something that works. And with that in mind, perhaps that 3-4-2-1 could work, as opposed to he and Scamacca being a two up top, potentially at times isolated. So, yeah, I think the Chiesa issue will be one that Spalletti will deal with, because you're right, he can't play 90 minutes. He can't play 3 matches 90 minutes in 10 days. I don't think that can be the case. So how does Spalletti use the potential that Chiesa has? I think it's an interesting one. I think his position is not. I don't think he's a lock to start all 3 group stage matches. That's for sure. I think he does bring something that could be of benefit to us in the second half of a match, but he's still going to be crucial for me. Chiesa. Are we going to see the same Chiesa as 3 years ago? Time will tell. Anything is possible, but probably not, is my hunch. But I think he's still a player that needs to be utilised in the right manner. I think, though, we play 3-5-2 with Chiesa and Scamacca up top to start against Albania match day 1.
Okay.
I agree with that. The only difference is that I think against Albania, who we know are going to probably play very deep and congest centrally, especially in the box, I want to play Scamacca Retegui. I want to see Chiesa in the Lookman role against Spain, where I know that Spain's going to have most of the possession and Italy are going to be a little bit on the back foot and push on the counter. So that's what I want to see him. Again, for me, this is about match coaching, depending on who they play. Who is Italy facing? How do they line up? Adapt to that. Keep your identity, but adapt to your opponent and try to get the best out of the squad available to you. That's how I view this. And so I think when you're playing Albania, you're going to have most of the possession. You're going to be pushing forward. They're going to shrink the space. They're going to congest the center of the pitch. You have 2 giants up front in Scamacca and Retegui, with the difference that they're not just good target men. Retegui's a killer in the box, and Scamacca can create something out of nothing. So with Di Marco's left foot, and whether it's Di Lorenzo, whoever is on the right, and Barella's runs and crosses, and Bastoni's diagonal runs and crosses, for me, I want to have those 2 big guys up front in there, in that opening game. Then you come with that result in the bag, you go to Spain. Well, you know that you're never going to have more possession than Spain whenever you play Spain. Fine, that means you have more space to attack. That's when I want to see Chiesa, like Lookman, in the Europa League final.
And certainly isn't a better deliverer of the ball for the Twin Towers than Di Marco, I think, than anyone in the Euros. Okay, let's talk about the favourites away from Italy. Let's talk about the favourites to win Euro 2024. England and France are the 2 favourites with the bookmakers. Well, England are, and then France just behind them. Then it's Germany, Portugal, then Spain, and then Italy don't come in until joint 6th with Holland. So they are quite adrift, Italy, but England are favourites. Nima, is this England's best chance to finally win their first trophy since 1966?
I really do think so. I think if you look at the makeup of that squad, you look at the experience that it has, you look at the players that they have, especially in the attacking phase, not so much defensively. I think that central defense gave me a bit of creeps when I saw it. It's not a very solid defense. But if I look at the midfield and upwards, they've got an abundance of world-class talent. I think the point about Southgate is important because I think it's valid. And I don't think they're favourites. I think, well, if you ask the English, they're always favourites. But if we look at it outside of England, I think France are massive favourites. France are the only team in the world right now that can pretty much field 3 starting 11s that where you don't really see that much difference in the quality. And that's insane. You talk about depth. I mean, Deschamps has ridiculous depth. So for me, France are absolute massive clear favourites. Then I have England. But I got to say, the closer we get to this tournament, I'm leaning more and more and more to Germany winning the whole damn thing. Germany hasn't won it since 96. Germany has been in, I mean, if Italy have had scandals and problems with their national team, it pales in comparison to what has gone on in Germany since they won the World Cup. It's been constant arguing. Now they seem to have found something there. And I think Germany at home, traditionally, historically, in front of their own fans, they watch out for Germany. That's what I'm going to say. But of course, the 2 main favourites are France and England. And without a doubt, to answer your question, this is England's best chance to win a tournament. And in since 1966, without a shadow of a doubt.
Couldn't agree anymore, Nima.
Adrian?
Couldn't agree anymore. I think, look, when you talk about England, a player like Harry Kane, not getting any younger, still in his prime, the best in his role, potentially in world football, plenty of world-class talents around him. They're not going to get a better chance than this. There aren't too many other teams. We spoke about our group alone, Italy, Spain, and Croatia, all going through transitional periods. there's also that factor as well, that a lot of the regular contenders are not anywhere near their best. Germany, while I'm in agreement that they do have something special about them, they have been dealing with so many problems, the pressures of playing at home. There is a lot that supports England winning this competition for the first time in their history. But France for me are the clear favourite. You're right, 3 11s, if not 4 11s. There is so much quality. Kylian Mbappe, the best player in the world to me at the moment. There is so much to love about France. And also the fact that they actually lost the World Cup final, I think they will be hungrier to respond and win an international tournament. So I have France 1, England are close 2. Portugal, I think, are up there as well, always need to be respected. We know that the quality they have across the board. But Germany is the one for me, which I think are building. And they have some players which are going to they're going to soar in years to come. Florian Wirtz is one, obviously now known around the world what he's done this season, but he's a player who, since doing his ACL a few years ago in the COVID seasons, he had already burst onto the scene in the Bundesliga at 17, broke every record there. There's no surprise from anyone in Germany. I've spoken to a lot of journalists there that he has become what he was supposed to become, and now will go that next level. And they have a lot of these players coming through that will make them a force, as they have always been, very soon. And this tournament's come at a good time. Nagelsmann has steadied the ship. He has been dealing with a lot. They are just hitting form at the right time.
Exactly.
And I'm with you, Nima. I think they're really primed to do something special. And I think they'll make a very deep run in this tournament. And without looking too far ahead, I do think that if we finish second in our group and they win their group, I think there's a potential quarter-final or round of 16 meeting, maybe round of 16 actually, between the winner of Group A and the runner-up of Group B. So it could be a potential Germany v Italy, Spain or Croatia in the round of 16. And I think the Germans they'll fancy themselves. I think they've really got a point to prove this tournament.
Just on that point about the path to the final, we shouldn't really focus on it now. We should just make sure we get through the group. But if we have got our eyes on trying to go all the way, winning the group could be very, very important for Italy, because it would probably mean an easier path to the final. Because if Italy were to come top of the group, of Group B, it would mean that we go into the top half of the knockout draw. That would mean that, assuming England and France win their groups, that we couldn't play England or France until the final. Now, that, of course, is absolutely huge, because if you ask me, if there's two teams who are quite clearly stronger than us on paper and in terms of quality of players, it's definitely France and England. So if you can avoid playing them until the final, that's absolutely huge. That certainly gives us a better chance of going far. So yes, we shouldn't try and be thinking ahead and being presumptuous. But, if there's a chance for us to win the group, then we should go for it. At the same time, it never works out like that. France could come second, England could come second, so, but that is, looking ahead, that is the path to the final.
The only reason I didn't mention Portugal is because they have a coach who I don't understand how he got that job. I mean, you talk about failing upwards in life. After he destroyed Belgium's golden generation, he now goes and tries to do something similar in Portugal. They need to get rid of him as soon as possible. And I hope that the only positive thing that could come from Portugal not having a good tournament is that they get rid of him and that they appoint an actual coach. So that's the only reason I don't count Portugal, because I think you're absolutely right, Adrian. The talent is unbelievable. No doubt.
Failing upwards, Nima, is something we're familiar with in Serie A, I think. Let's do predictions then, very quickly, because as always we're going way over. We'll do this without any explanation. Let's just go through this pretty much one word. So Euro 2024 winners. I'm going to go for France, Nima, then Adrian. One word.
Germany.
France.
Germany and France. Top scorer. Now, this might come as a bit of a surprise, but I'm going to go for Cristiano Ronaldo. The only reason being that they have a really easy group, and I think he's going to fill his boots in the group stages with probably with most of them being penalties. And then he might not score again and still finish top scorer. So I'm going to go for Ronaldo. Nima.
Adrian, on me, okay.
Yeah, you go first, Nima, then Adrian, you come
in. Jude Bellingham, 6 goals.
Okay, I was going to say Kane. I think pending he's fully fit, but I think England can score a lot of goals as well, like Ronaldo and Portugal in the group stage. I think Kane, and I think England will go deep.
Me too.
Well, England always get a bye to the semi-finals, so he'd probably fill his boots as well. Player of the tournament at Euro 2020, it was Gigi Donnarumma. It was one of our guys. I'm going to go, seeing as I've gone for France to win the tournament, it's always going to come from the winners. So I'm going to go Kylian Mbappe this time around. Nima?
Toni Kroos, the farewell tour.
Love that.
Having fresh off of winning the Champions League, being a fantastic season for Real Madrid. And since I have got Germany winning it, I think it's between him and Jude Bellingham. I think those two are going to really shine this tournament.
That would be very special, but I'm going with Kylian as well. I think Mbappe will just continue that run. I think he will win the Euros, player of the tournament, and then go on and win the Ballon d'Or as well.
It makes sense. Breakout star. The breakout star in Euro 2020 was I think it was Pedri actually, but Federico Chiesa, of course, from Italy was really exploded as well. This tournament. I'm going to go Arda Güler of Real Madrid and Turkey. He's someone that could really emerge in Germany, even though I don't really high hopes for Turkey, but I think he will shine anyway. Who do you guys have?
I think Florian Wirtz of Germany is a shout. I think he's a very talented player, and he's had an unbelievable season. So, yeah.
I'm with you, Nima. Florian Wirtz will be the breakout star. I think Germany can have a good run as well. Again, let's see that if they do win their group, they will play the second place team in our group, which will be a very nice match. But I think that's definitely a strong candidate. Home country, I think certainly one that could win that award.
Surprise team. I'm going to go for Austria. I've been really, really impressed by Austria. I think the way that they play as a team, just how fit they are, how much they run, just how well drilled they are by Ralf Rangnick. They've lost David Alaba, but watching them play, sort of saw them destroy Turkey in a friendly a couple of months ago. They're in a really tough group, the group of F, but I think that they could surprise Holland or even France in that grouping. I think they'll take points in that group. So I'm going to go for Austria. Nima?
Oof, this is tough. Define surprise and define. It's a little bit difficult.
Not one of the favourites. Not okay. One of the big teams.
You can't say that Croatia are a surprise given who they are, but I do think they can surprise teams. But I also think that just if you take into account what you're going into, what you expect from them, and their history in that, I think that Albania is going to be really, really a nasty surprise. Yeah, and if they get through the group, that automatically makes them the surprise.
Well, that means we're out if they get through the
group. Well, you never know. I think that group. I honestly think that group is so difficult. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I think Spain go through, but then other than that, I think it's up for grabs between them. I think it's fairly balanced. Don't sleep on Albania. That's all I'm going to say.
I like that. I like both of those. That's something different. Look, surprise is right. The definition is a difficult one because there could be a lot of surprises and shocks. I was doing some research the other day and just looking, and the country that kept springing to mind because it's a beautiful story is Georgia. Obviously, Kvaratskhelia and Georgia. They're in an interesting group. Portugal, Turkey, Czech Republic. Could they get through? That could be a wonderful surprise, a wonderful story. Obviously, the Euro's expanded and the qualification has now seen Georgia create some history in their own right. Perhaps they could be one to spring a couple of surprises in the group stage.
That's a good shout. That's a very good shout.
Yeah, it's a doable group. Kvara could finally earn himself a pay hike from his current McDonald's wages that he gets at Napoli. De Laurentiis might finally pay him what he's earned, what he deserves. Yeah, okay, that's our predictions. let's do a bit of nostalgia now. I want us to pick all of our greatest Italy national team 11 of all time. So this is a really, really tough one. Bear in mind that we're going to base your teams on how they performed for the Italy national team. So don't pick players that were fantastic for their club sides, just on how they performed for Italy at tournaments or in their Italy careers. So I'm going to tell you mine, and then you guys can tell me what your teams were. So my 11 should come up on the screen now. I'm going for a 5-3-2 because Italy produced probably 70% or 80% of the top 10 defenders of all time. So I had to pick as many defenders as I could. So in goal, I'm going for Gigi Buffon. Then right back, I'm going for Giuseppe Bergami, legend from the 1982, 18-year-old at 1982 World Cup, and they were still playing in the 1998 World Cup. Centre-back, I'm going for Franco Baresi, who I consider to be the best centre-back of all time. I'm going for Gaetano Sciarra, who was the great libero of the 1982 World Cup winning team. I'm going for Fabio Cannavaro, who I was at every single Italy game watching, apart from the final in Germany in 2006. And I can tell you, I don't think there's ever been, I'm not saying he's the best Italy defender of all time, he's not, but I don't think there's ever been a better performance in a major tournament by a defender, maybe by any defender, but certainly by an Italian defender than Cannavaro was in that 2006 World Cup. He was every single game was just a clinic from Cannavaro. So they're my centre backs. Then at left back, of course, Paolo Maldini, who's maybe the best defender of all time if we're taking into account everything. Then in midfield, I'm going for Andrea Pirlo. Of course, nothing more needs to be said about him. Marco Tardelli for playing the more kind of runner, kind of ball tackler, all action, box to box player from the 1982 World Cup. Of course, the iconic celebration in that World Cup. And then I'm going, he's not strictly a centre midfielder, but he can play there. Sandro Mazzola from the team that won the Euros, our first Euros in 1968, and also a great Inter team of the 60s and 70s. And then up front, really, really difficult this, but I mean, he was my childhood hero. So Roberto Baggio, has to be Baggio. Grew up watching him in Italia 90, World Cup 94 in USA, and the 1998 World Cup. Never did it. Never played at a Euros, actually. Weirdly, never played at a European Championship. And the striker next to him, I'm probably going to go Paolo Rossi, top scorer, of course, at the 1982 World Cup. Scored a hatful at the 1978 World Cup as well. Fantastic guy as well, and really sorely missed. So that's my team, 5-3-2. Nima, let's go with yours first. You'll have to just read your one out.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with a 3-5-2 because I want to have three central defenders for the reasons you explained. So basically, my goal. I mean, to me, goalkeeper is just is who do you go out of Zoff, Buffon, and Zenga? I mean, it's just it's so difficult, but I can't go past Dino Zoff for longevity and what he was. It's we're talking like photo finish here. So Dino Zoff in goal, left centre back Maldini, Sciarra in the middle, and Gentile. Baresi to the right, and then left wing back Facchetti, and then to the right Bergomi, and then the three central midfielders. You have to have Pirlo. God, this is getting really difficult. 3-5-2. Up front, I'm gonna have Baggio, and I'm gonna have Paolo Rossi, but I also want to shoehorn in Gianni Rivera somehow because we're talking Italy Ballon d'Or winner. So my team is not very balanced.
Need one more midfield. You need one more midfielder.
Yeah.
But we could probably do with those 10 players. Would be good enough.
Yeah, I mean, those things could probably handle it. But who would I go? Listen, I need to have some kind of defensive balance as well, don't I? And
Gattuso?
Gattuso, I think I have to have, just to have
Or De Rossi?
De Rossi. Yeah, I'll probably go with De Rossi.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm shoehorning in because Gianni Rivera has to be there. Italy don't exactly have an abundance of Ballon d'Or winners, and he was unbelievable.
Gianni Rivera's performance for Milan, though, against Ajax in the 1969 European Cup final. I'd tell everybody that loves Italian football to watch that game. You can watch it on. I think you can watch it on YouTube in full. One of the greatest individual performances I've ever seen. It was absolute clinic from Rivera. So watch that game. He was a great, and he was actually with the Italy national team, wasn't he? Earlier a few days ago, he was brought along by Spalletti to kind of inspire the team, along with a group of other legends.
It's a bit annoying too because Gigi Riva, it's like Meazza Riva. Like I don't know.
I felt terrible leaving Riva out.
Yeah,
who had a shot that was so hard it once broke the arm of a fan in the crowd. That was how hard his left foot was.
And then you have, of course, even if you go further back, Giuseppe Meazza. I mean, it's just, this is hard. This is really hard.
Very, very hard. Adrian, go on.
Yeah, it's very hard. Very, very difficult. But look, let's roll off some names and see where they fit. But I'll go with Buffon in goal. If we're talking centre-backs, I'm a little bit young. I need to keep it a little bit more modern. I've got to throw Chiellini in there. I've loved what he's been able to do, and I love the fact how important he was in the latter stage of his career in winning the Euros. So with Baresi and Cannavaro, you're right, Carlo, in Cannavaro and that performance at that World Cup. No, he's right up there, but not the very, very, very best. But what he was able to do, that performance in that tournament, remarkable. Zambrotta for me, Maldini, wide. There are so many. You guys said Bergami as well. It's very, very difficult. This is mission impossible. But I guess that's a 5 with a couple of wing backs.
Yeah.
Pirlo and Gattuso I like in midfield, and Baggio, Rossi. I think they must be in there. And then I need to include either another midfielder. But I had lunch with him earlier today, and we have lunch most days in the week. Bobo Vieri, he has to go in there for me. Star, quality, goals. Just didn't get that trophy that would have been well deserved. But I think, I think they're 11 of 100 that could challenge for a spot in that. We have been blessed with so many wonderful talents over time. But I'll do my best and go with that for now.
Yeah, 2002 Vieri. If we hadn't have been cheated out of the World Cup by the drug smuggling referee from Ecuador, we how many goals would Vieri have scored in that tournament?
Yeah, records could have been broken.
Yeah. You said before that we never have high scorers in tournaments. I mean, I think that would have been the year that we had a very high scorer. Penultimate before we finish off. Just 2 minutes, 1 minute on this very quickly. Let's talk about the kits. We're all wearing Italy kits, or Nima's wearing a 1968 kind of special edition Italy jersey there. I'm actually wearing the Euro 2024 kit. So I guess everybody should look at. I think Adrian, you're wearing the 2023 kit, aren't you? Yeah.
This was the 23 kit. That's right.
23 kit. Okay. Well, obviously, like no country has more style and elegance than Italy or the Italians. I mean, Italy is known for being at the forefront of fashion and for having some fantastic kits at tournaments. What do we think of the Euro 2024 shirt? Do we like it? Adrian, are you a fan?
Look, I always love the Italy kit. I'm a little indifferent this time around, just compared to the high level that we've always set. We think back to classic kits. We mentioned 2002 before. It's some of the most iconic Italy kits. So I think we've had some super iconic kits. Is this one of those? Probably not for me. But if we can win something in it, then maybe it does become that. But not my favorite kit in all history of Italy kits, if I'm being honest.
Nima, you don't like it either, do you? I can see you shaking your head.
It's okay, but I mean, if I were to compare it, for me, the pinnacle was Kappa. What Kappa did in around 2000, there, every single one of them are works of art. They're just absolutely stunning. The white ones, the blue ones, they were just the most beautiful ones, and Italy always had the most beautiful ones, whether it was 1990, 92, 94, 96, 98. I mean, it was just, they were always stunning. So no, this does not qualify in my all-time. I just want to say that what the shirt I'm wearing is from mainenginepress.com. They did an homage to the 1968 Italy team, and go check it out. That's why I'm wearing it, because I think that 1968 team is one that is very close to my heart and everything that surrounded that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I saw this kit when it first came out, the Euro 2024, I didn't like it. I wasn't a fan of it. Then I bought it, or got it bought for me for my birthday actually, and it has grown on me. I do like it actually. I do like this
That's
nice little touch on the with the flag here. What I think lets it down is I think it's the sponsor. I think it's Adidas. I just think that Adidas has too much of a sporty. Even the logo has too much of a sporty feel about it. And Italy's all about more kind of elegance and more refined, and it just has too much of a kind of, just that doesn't feel Italian Adidas.
I also feel the Adidas logo is a little too big as well.
I was just about to say that.
It's as big as the emblem, so the focus you get lost a bit on the Adidas logo and not the
I was just about to say that I think the Adidas logo is too big. I would have liked to seen it smaller a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. What is your favorite Italy kit of all time? Nima, you're going to say Kappa, aren't you? You're going to say
Euro 2000, Francesco Totti, the white in the final, is the most beautiful shirt ever designed. Nothing will ever beat it. It belongs at the Louvre. It's so beautiful.
It was beautiful.
There we go.
It was beautiful. I think that the only thing with that is you had to be well in shape to wear the Kappa. Like, if you're carrying a bit, like, you're not going to look good in that kit. That's the only thing.
I'm sorry, but it's Italian fashion and Italian sizes, so get to the gym then.
That's right.
Adrian, what's your favorite kit?
Well, Nima said there's no other alternative, so I'm with him. That generation is that they were the most beautiful kits. The players looked as if they were walking a fashion catwalk, let alone playing 90 minutes of football. I don't think you can dispute that those Kappa years were number one. I think
just Paolo Maldini's captains, the entire kit in that final. I know Italy lost, but they've never looked better. They've just never looked better. Like that, just him,
and they were
there with that armband, and it was just fantastic, all of it.
No, they were Roman gods, weren't they? I mean, they were they were a good-looking bunch of players back then as well. Like recently, they haven't been as good to look at. I don't want to, but they looked like stars. They looked like superstars back then.
No, they did. They really did. They looked the part.
I would say that the Kappa kits were amazing. Yeah. I like the Italia 90 as well. I love the Italia 90 kit. I thought that was a classic. I love the 82 kit. I love the World Cup. I like the 94 with the repeat patterns of the logo all over the kit. I thought that was really nice. I didn't like the Euro 96 with the gold. I wasn't a fan. I know you quite like that, Nima. I remember you saying before, but I'm not a fan of the gold on the Italy kit. But
the 2000, but I mean, it's some of them. I mean, it depends on how they look. I mean, the way that they designed it. I mean, in 2006, the way that they designed it with the gold and also making it a bit darker in here. No, they've always had the best looking kits. It's no discussion about it. But
okay, right.
Peaked in 2000.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Okay. So to finish off now, I know you both will love this. It wouldn't be a European Championship without there being what we call a prem-facery prem-demic, which for those of you, I mean, all of those that listen to our show regularly will know what I'm talking about. For those who don't know what a prem-face is, go to Urban Dictionary. But in short, it is basically it's an England national team or English Premier League fan or pundit. The pundits are the worst.
Usually
actually.
Pundit.
On the TV are the worst. Or TalkSport, who are proudly arrogant and ignorant,
and
I would say is the best way to describe of all football outside of England. That's the best way to describe it, but you'll get the idea. So now, myself, Nima and Adrian, we often have a lot of fun with this. I mean, if you go onto social media, if you go onto Twitter and just type in Prem face, it's usually us kind of like pointing out Prem face comments or Prem face acts around the world, or mainly in England. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish off with a little game here. It's going to be a Prem face quiz, and I'm going to be the quiz master, and I'm going to ask 3 questions to both of you.
Oh dear.
Right, and Adrian and Nima, you have to give an answer that a Prem face would give. So answer this as if you're a Prem face, and if you do that, and I'm satisfied, then you will get the point. If your answer's too sensible, you won't get the point. So
Brilliant.
Let's see who is the biggest Prem face.
I just got to say one thing. Carlo is actually the best judge of this competition, given that the idea of Prem face, the concept, the word, is his brainchild. He is the Dr. Frankenstein to this Frankenstein monster, as you will see if you go on Urban Dictionary.
Yeah. Cole, I'm going to have to bring Cole from Bedford, who's my kind of alter ego for the Euros.
Right,
there's going to be a lot of material, that's for sure. So let's go then. Question 1, very easy question to start with, Adrian.
Okay.
Who will win Euro 2024?
Oh, well, that's easy. It's England.
Correct.
It's England in the bag.
In the bag.
Your first question, Nima. Who is the best player in the world? Kylian Mbappe or Declan Rice?
Everybody knows it's Declan Rice. Football. There's never been a midfielder like Declan Rice before. Greatest midfielder of all time.
Correct. Greatest player of all time, not just greatest midfielder. So 1-1 is the scores after round 1. Question 2, Adrian, your second question. How many France players would get into the England team?
Well, I don't even know any France players, to be honest. Is Ronaldo French?
Nice.
No.
Nice.
They've got that Mbappe. Yeah, let's go with him. Let's go 1. Mbappe.
Mbappe. Okay. I think you deserve a bonus point for not knowing any France players other than Mbappe. Correct. Nima, your second question. What is the correct way to refer to Germany? Is it Germany, or, as you just said there, is it the Germans?
The Germans. It's always the Germans.
Correct. If anybody's wondering this question, if you're watching the Euros on English TV or with any English pundit, just notice how when they're introducing Germany or talking about Germany, they never call them Germany. They call them the Germans. It's like they're a different species. They're not known as Germany.
So what, they're playing the opening game of the tournament, and it's the Germans against Scotland?
Yeah, that's how they introduce it. Like Gary Lineker is introducing on the BBC. So then, the opening game of the tournament, it's Scotland against the Germans. It's never Germany.
Brilliant. Love it.
Right. Final question. Question 3.
Okay.
England fans stormed the Olympia Stadium ahead of the Euro 2020 final. Who is to blame? The England fans or the foreign police?
Oh, that is a tough one, because we're probably just having fun. We're probably just having a good time. It's them who created the issues.
Yeah.
We weren't going to do that. They were creating problems for us. We were being respectful and harmless, and it was them. It's the police.
It's always the police or the organizers.
Yeah, the security, the organisers, or the police. Yeah,
always.
Or, as is in the case on the Netflix documentary of the Euro 2020 final, it was, according to one fan, it was the pandemic's fault for England storming the stadium. Final question, Nima.
So correct, Carlo, yes?
Correct, yes, of course, correct, yeah. Yes. So, Nima, to avoid defeat here, in the famous English fan song, complete the lyrics to this. There were 10 German bombers in the air, and the
RAF from England shot one down.
Correct. You know your England fan songs. Yeah, get ready for that. Get ready for that in the Euros, because they're playing it's in Germany, isn't it? So it's going to be a lot of those chants, that's for sure. So that's it. 3-3. You both draw, so you'll both share the trophy for biggest Prem face. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
So there we have it. Thank you, Nima, and thank you, Adriano, for joining us. It was a big pleasure for us. Just before we let you go, Adrian, so where will you be during the Euros, and how will you be covering the tournament?
Well, I haven't actually officially announced it yet, but no, basically this tournament, I've covered a lot of football on the pitch the last 5 years, and there's been a bit of a need for a break. So I was offered to do that pitch side, but I was also offered a couple of studio host roles. So I'm actually going to be in studio for the tournament doing an anchoring role just to mix it up. And it'll be busy, but it's just to find some balance. So I'm actually doing 6 weeks for one of my networks in India. So I'm off to Mumbai to do the tournament from studio there. And I'll be there in a week. So mixing it up, a new experience, a lot of it, passionate Indian football fans who I've been working for a long time. So yeah, a fresh experience and adventure coming up, which, yeah, it's a shame not to be going to Germany, but do need a break from the consistent matches in the stadiums from time to time. So yeah, something different I'm looking forward to.
Fantastic. Well, good luck. Best of luck with that. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Do follow the Italian Football Podcast throughout 24. As I said before, we'll be producing lots and lots of content, previews to matches, post-match reaction. We'll be doing lots of interviews. We've got some really good interviews lined up, and plus we'll be doing our usual transfer content that we do throughout the summer, interviewing journalists for deep dives on what all the plans are for the Serie A teams, and reacting to those transfers when they happen. So everybody, enjoy the Euros. Let's hope that Italy can surprise us, and that we can have a great tournament, and who knows, maybe retain our title that we won at Euro 2020. Thanks for watching. Ciao, ciao.